Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. For those of you in the audience, thanks for coming out this evening. We have a lot of folks on remote. Our superintendent will be remote this evening, and Mrs. Achman and Mrs. Worm will be remote. So I see them all popping up on the screen. Thank you, all of those that are joining on Zoom also. Happy New Year to everyone. I hope everyone had a good holiday and got some rest. And I appreciate all that everyone is doing. We appreciate all that's everyone doing to try and be safe and healthy. I know it's not easy. The district, everyone in the district and the administration continues to work hard with the priority of the schools staying opened. It is not easy, and then add an element of weather to it, and it just becomes challenging. So, but I can tell you people are literally working around the clock to continue to look out for the safety of our students and the health of our students. So, and again, Happy New Year. Thanks for joining us. We start our budget process this evening. So I'd like to call a special meeting of the Board of Education to order. The next regular Board of Education meeting will be held on Saturday, January 8th at 8:30 a.m. in the board meeting room. With that, I will turn it over to Dr. Adley and the presentation of the 2022-2023 Board of Ed's recommended budget from the superintendent. Thank you, Dr. Adley.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
Good. Well, good evening and greetings from my home. And I can tell you, I've turned the corner, so I feel much better today. So I look forward to my symptoms dissipating and being able to participate on Saturday. First of all, a very warm welcome to everyone who is participating. I get a wee sense on the screen tonight of the representation. So to our public officials, to our members of the community, students, even perhaps parents, staff members, and to our board members, thank you for joining us this evening. Tonight is also an opportunity when we present the budget. It's as much a celebration and recognition of the excellent work that is done in the district and the way education is supported by our tremendous supportive community over many years, and from the benefit of many different leaders in different positions. So for all of those who have gone before, we thank them for that, for the investment and for the work that is being done currently. I don't know if the board has their presentation in front of them or not. I don't know if they have one in front of them or not, but if not, we'll move on, and Mr. Tramberg will get it to you there. So this evening, I'm just delighted to be able to present the budget. I'm going to try and, if we can share the screen here, move through it. I don't know if it probably means I will be reduced a little bit in size, but we'll go through it. I can say in 14 years, this is the first time I've ever presented a budget remotely, but we're all doing this type of work, most notably our teachers and our students. So we'll continue with this, and hopefully we don't miss too many nuances along the way. But thank you. It's a privilege to lead this district. I have to say, like, there are not many normal days, but I think that's life for all of us at this time. I do want to recognize our teaching staff for the fabulous work that they have done over nearly 2 years working in this pandemic. The wonderful community that have been very supportive of everyone's efforts, for the board, for their leadership, our two chairs over the past couple of years, and the board now, because it's just been difficult and challenging to make the decisions along the way that we've made. And we want to thank you on behalf of the kids, our parents and our teachers, for supporting education along the way, and indeed to all of our public officials along the way who have also supported many of our initiatives and requests through this time of budget or of COVID. And I'm just going to try and share the screen if I can, right here. So it'd be a wee bit remiss of me if I did not start off just by thanking this particular team, which is our medical team, which alongside the administration and alongside the board, they have been a tremendous resource for us. They have given their time unselfishly in service to our community, in particular service to our kids. So David Knopf, our director, Alicia Kasuchi, our director of nursing, and Dr. Kennefick, our medical advisor. Every day, literally, we're in contact, and for the past 2 years, they have served us unselfishly and with much dedication, and that don't give a second to their own time. So thank you for all of your efforts. They're probably not on tonight, but I would like us to recognize these people as a member of the Darien community who just have served us in such tremendous ways. So the budget tonight sort of addresses, is sort of formulated a little bit that sort of addresses these particular aspects. It supports the strategic plan. This is the exciting opportunity to move initiatives forward, strategies forwards, programs forwards for kids. So you'll see that as we go through the budget, that there are various aspects that align to the particular goals in the strategic plan. There are incremental improvements along the way, and new courses and learning experiences and opportunities for students. They certainly addresses current needs of facilities nature and technology nature. And there's some realized efficiencies as we have evaluated a couple of program or services that we've provided and the way we do things. One from the one-to-one, also how we provide some service of transportation to realize some efficiencies. And it also reflects some learnings that we have had from COVID. We've learned some lessons along the way, and you'll see some of those come out, most particularly through the one-to-one. Also, some of the hybrid courses that the board approved for English most recently, and whether the students would be able to be in class and out of class while they take a class. So there's things in here that have been informed by our COVID. And we also have an outdoor classroom opportunity, I should say. It's actually technically not in the budget, but I'll talk to it when I get to it. So that sort of formulates a budget, but everything we do at this particular point is trying to align to the vision and mission of the school district, which essentially is really preparing our kids to thrive. Thrive is an important word, because I would say that even during COVID, our district has been able to thrive as we have delivered primarily in-person learning to our students. And so we'll continue that as we try to prepare our kids for the future ahead of them, whether it's in the workforce or whether it's going into continuing education. And yes, even during this time, we want to be able to inspire our kids to be critical thinkers, to be innovative creators, and also to care for each other. We have seen our students come forward. We understand the issues we're dealing with, and it's important that we create citizens who not just care for themselves, but also care for others outside of their groups and outside of these communities, because they're going to be going on to greater and better communities in some ways, and more experience and experience different diversity. And we want students to be able to thrive in those environments. So this is the strategic plan and the elements of the strategic plan. And again, a wee bit later in the presentation, you'll see how some of the programs, I believe, sort of align to some of the work we're doing. So for next year, and essentially year 1 and year 2 of the strategic plan, we want to make sure that we have resources to do the things that we have said in the strategic plan that we would do. So it's exciting to get this up and running. Again, that the strategic plan is going to be a live document, and the board is interested in following that progress. Next week, we'll have a progress update on the strategic plan. But I'm pleased to say that we've been able to move some of the items in the strategic plan forward in this particular budget, and that's what we should be doing. So if we look at our operating budgets over the past 10 years, a little bit skewed from FY20 and FY21, because we had the $1.7 million appropriation. In fact, we may have run a deficit otherwise, if that's the case, of about 400,000. But if you look at what we basically give back, essentially we have spent the money all but maybe a third of a percent back to the town. And so we spend the money wisely, and we don't budget anything. We don't really budget any fluff in the budget. We make decisions along the way. Transfers come up naturally as part of a budget process, but I think you can feel the taxpayers and our community can feel well served that the money that we ask for, we are using. And if we don't have to use it, we obviously would be fiscally responsible to return it. This is really the projection, which is, it just shows you the 5-year projection that we did earlier on in the year, just about a month ago. For FY13, we projected 4.57, and the superintendent's budget is coming in at 3.95. So in order to get from 4.57, there's been adjustments in healthcare, there's been adjustments in programs and other services that we had in the 4.5. We had to make some adjustments along the way that we felt were necessary, and also there were a couple of items and programs and services that were up for discussion, and that they were still ongoing, and we have brought those to closure. How the adaptive budget plays out remains to be seen at this particular point. This is our net expenditure per pupil, and you can see literally we're the average. Literally, we are the median average here of the districts. The expenditures on the right, or the revenues on the right, really sort of say if we were using, for instance, Westport's net pupil expenditure, and then we would have to raise additional $3.7 million in revenues. Similarly, if you take Easton, there'll be less revenues that we would have to acquire. But we're right in the middle, and that's where we have been for some time. Just want to again recognize this is the time before we go into sort of the detail of the budget, just to take a moment to celebrate what we've done. And there's much to be proud of in our district, and we're tremendously proud of our students. We're tremendously proud of our community. There's a lot going on, and we have been doing a lot, and there's a lot already in the pipeline, in the works. But from our arts programs that have been recognized to the high school for technology, and also for best high school in 2020, then in 2021, the technology, the work we are doing around Roller for social emotional learning for our kids. We've had about 21 in the last year, different types of championships, from state championships to CX championships. We have a community who supports us unselfishly with their resources, most recently with the Darien Foundation's donation for the robotics programs. And of course, we have all our projects going on, our school projects, from the removal of the portables to Oxbridge. It's just exciting times for our students and for our community around education. And of course, even during this pandemic, the academic performance of our students around SAT, AP, and ultimately those assessments, when they finish the experience, continue to be exemplary. This is just a wee graph that typically I might do. This is really hard to do this particular year because and maybe I shouldn't do it in all honesty, because you really shouldn't be comparing. The variables that are placed right now are just so significantly different. But I would take it just no more than a snapshot. What you see here is the performance of the combined SAT for math and English, for remote, hybrid, and in person. So you'll see, for instance, for Darien, we really didn't have complete remote. We had hybrid and in person for predominantly most of the experience for the last year. And you'll see Darien right at the intersection of the two axes there. So it shows you Derg A in blue. In this case, Darien is in green. Derg B is in red, and then all the rest of the districts. Now, what is plotted there is the performance for students who were fully in person and who were hybrid. So you'll get a wee sense that for the most part, there weren't many districts that performed higher on us on the assessment and with a lesser expense. And even that, given the dispersion of the students and their individual performance, some of the students may have been in hybrid and some of the students may be even in person, so you didn't know what. It's really hard to compare. And so in any given year, it's you wouldn't be putting all the eggs in one basket, and I certainly don't, and I certainly would not in this particular case. But it just gives you a wee snapshot that we are certainly getting our value for money. So our enrollment is going to decrease by about a student. It will be stable over the next 5 years. It'll be basically in the high school, you'll basically be increasing by about 23 students. Middle school will be decreasing by about the same amount. This doesn't include the ELP. ELP would be about an extra 90 students or so. So the average class, this maintains class sizes. So you'll see the average class size on the third row there, and they are good class sizes, and so those are maintained through this particular budget. There is an increase in one section, which is Henley in second grade. It does reflect that we have we're going to be including 4 open choice students in each of the grade levels. At kindergarten, at the Henley, Holmes, Oxridge, and Topanique. Royal is not, because there's really 3 students away in the section from Tipping, so that's where certainly the open choice is currently designated to go. So again, 16 open choice students participating in the program. So just the big ideas, just to start, we have coming in at a 3.95, and we'll delineate sort of the difference in the increase. This is no surprise to anybody. We are personnel oriented business, so it shouldn't come as a surprise that certainly nearly 80% of our costs go to employee benefits and personnel. So with that, to some degree, we have limited expenditures to play with, whether it's equipment or operating. So just for a quick budget summary here, we start off with the 106 that we have. We have the contractual wages that result in a 1.51 increase. We have health costs that contribute to nearly 1% of the budget. New investments and net reduction. So some of the programs that you'll hear about, some of the services, some of the suggested additions of personnel or services or line item increases, and combined with the reductions that we made is another 0.52. To some degree, you could say that that's the discretionary part. We have IEP driven expenditure. So IEPs, we have increases in IEPs, we've increased number of students receiving services, and that results in a 0.3. Contractual non-personnel, there's a lot of from inflation to equipment, heat, gas, so on and so forth. Those have all increased this particular year. Enrollment driven, I'll speak to those as I go through the presentation. And then budget control. Budget control we'll put down for 3. So in this budget, there's 3 positions for budget control, and then retirement based on actuary projections. So you can see you nearly get to just over 2% really easily on commitments that we already have, fixed costs that we already have. Salaries in the budget. So these are the increases in the salaries. They're fairly self-explanatory in the sense of the teachers, administrators, non-certified staff, including central services, ESY. The other is just ESY, homebound, interns, intramurals, and unified sports. The budget control, staff turnover that we're assuming about 30 staff members. We had about 54 this year, and with a net sort of expenditure of 30 staff members between who left at the top and who came in at the bottom. For enrollment, if the enrollment staff is included, that's where you see the increase and the total staff additions for other positions that you'll see in the budget in a couple of minutes. So these are the major changes. So there's a bursar at the high school. There are new regulations about how to do student activity funds, and they must go through Munis at this particular point. This is already a 0.5 position. We're suggesting that there's a need to actually increase that to 0.8. In some ways, it has been taking place already because there's a lot of overtime work that's already taken place. DHS at the high school, we have a 0.6 health teacher and PE teacher for physical education. When we did the presentation on class sizes, you may remember that the phys ed classes and the health classes were larger, and also the number of students who will be at the high school for next year. I'm excited about the Mandarin at the middle school. This will offer students Chinese starting at 6th grade. We have a campus monitor at the middle school. We have one in the grant at the moment. This continues that position. That is a big high school by any stretch of the imagination, and having people assisting in that capacity is actually invaluable at this particular point. Also, not just it gets a level of supervision, another level of safety as well in many ways, and it creates a wee bit of flexibility for the school and supervision. Hindley 2nd grade, that was a class size increase for 1. The Hindley PE teacher is 0.2. That really is because it's now that that additional class causes for scheduling purposes and for the class increase in class size, that we need an extra 0.2 of a TE teacher. The Holmes and the Oxbridge instructional paraprofessionals, that's really according to our ratios that we 1 to 80 or 89 or so of paraprofessionals per student. So that's really just formula driven, and it's an enrollment request coming out of that. Oxbridge custodian, given what is going to take place next year, that building is going to require, the size of the building is going to require additional custodian. It's important that we have the additional services to actually keep the building clean. Groundskeeper, sometimes, I don't know if you've walked around the school, sometimes I think Mike and maybe even the board chairman would be frustrated, and I'm frustrated. I don't know if you've seen some things sometimes. It's just hard to keep up with the outside of the ground, that's all. That's just the reality of it. Some of the areas just need to be upkept a little bit more and in a more timely way, and it's just hard for the team to actually keep up with it and do the work. And we can put these things off. We have done some analysis of districts around us and what they have and so on. But the reality is just to keep the buildings in pristine condition as well, as much as we'd want them, particularly the outside we're talking about here. This groundkeeper would service the full district. And so originally when we put in the projection earlier in the month, we had actually 2 groundskeepers in. We have a technician here, and we're suggesting that technician, technology technician, would be at the middle school to service devices. Again, it's a big middle school with a lot of kids in it, and we've worked through the pandemic a little bit and our technology needs, but it continues to be an area where we feel we need to have more resources. The LPN is for a medical fragile child, and that's just a one-to-one scenario that we need to put in place. And I'll leave out, well, it's in the budget book anyway. It's at the middle school, and so there's a special education teacher. The increased needs at the high school, in particular. So this would provide a special education teacher at the high school. The driver is really a combination of adding a 4th suburban, which actually the combination of the driver and the suburban actually saves us money. It's an actual efficiency. So if we do that in combination with purchasing the 4th suburban, it would save us money on transportation. So you can see that there's an additional 10.7 FTEs. There is you may wonder, where's the school psychologist? I thought you were talking about a school psychologist. The school psychologist is not in the operating budget, but the school psychologist will be in the grant, the IDEA ARP grant. So we're going to keep that in that grant. It'll only be used for the year, and we'll also have an SLP in that particular grant to deal with the high school, the increase in needs at the high school. So it'll be an SLP and also a school psychologist. So it's not listed here because it's not technically in the operating budget. So our health rate increase is 8.75. It was going to look like something like 14 from Anthem. It did, I believe, go out to bid as a part of the consortium. It will be capped if we want to stay in it for FY24. at 6.9%, but that at least was helpful. It was just over 7 this particular year. So it's not as bad as we thought it might be, but it's still certainly a significant enough increase. And then between the health rate and the pensions, you know, it's 1.22% of the total budget. Special education. So we're going to go up to over 870 students, 873 students or so. Where that changes, it can change pretty regularly, as you know, but that's a significant change in services. So for special education personnel, so the growth is 326. That's all contractual staff. For special education, the special education with the asterisk just talks to contracted services, OT/PTs, and it's also offset by non-public school transportation that has gone down, so that there was an offset.
Is he frozen, Michelle? Is he
No.
frozen or are we frozen?
So these are some of the highlights. Some of them may be a wee bit redundant from what I said, but I'm excited just to share some things in this that provide opportunities for our students and address some of the strategic goals as we go along. So there are a couple of new high school offerings which were exciting, and the board has already supported these. There are a couple that are being revised. They're not new courses, but these ones all listed are new courses. I'm pleased to say that the digital journalism, for example, as a learning from COVID, sometimes the students will be in that class and sometimes they'll be out of the class. So our students have learned to take classes remotely, and while they'll be in the school, they'll have the opportunity to both be in and outside of the classroom. So that's an exciting opportunity. These other ones we have spoke to the board's familiar with these, but generally speaking, there may be for different courses here, there may be money set aside for books or particular curriculum writing for these courses, and it's a good opportunity to expand into the AP Spanish. Middle school courses, the Mandarin Chinese, and also we're continuing with the project Lead the Way in 6th grade. I also want to mention, I don't have it here, you'll see in the presentation from the middle school principal, Ms. Rodriguez, you'll see also like a Genius Hour. There's some money set aside for a Genius Hour, which is sort of like allows the students during flex for a certain period of time. It won't be a regular time through flex, but basically once a month to pursue interests of their own desires and so on. So that's another exciting wee opportunity. Curriculum software, which is the EduPlanet 21. You've heard us talk about that before, but that'll allow us to a warehouse to track our curriculum, house our curriculum, share it with the public. K-2 reading, these are from Teachers College units. These will help address the state's requirement for reading programs at the schools that all school districts are required to do. We'll be getting ours through, we're working with Teachers College to implement the K-2 reading. Open Choice program, we talked about 16 students. I'm excited about that program, and it brings an opportunity to, I think it's also not, it's not just beneficial to the students who would come to Darien, but I think it's also good for our students. And it's a nice way to honestly build diversity into the experiences for our students. There is diversity, equity, and inclusion support. We do have a liaison person for Open Choice in this. I think it would be helpful. Having worked in an open choice and an open choice environment, it is particularly helpful, and it sort of positions the program and the kids to be most successful for the most part. The liaison with parents, our staff, the students, organizations in town. It's helpful to have a point person because there's so much that tends to go on, and also liaison with CES. So you'll see in there that there's money set aside for diversity training, and then there's also money set aside for a liaison. The school psychologist at the high school, I put this in here. It's grant funded, but it sort of falls under the wellness of our students at the high school. Professional development, you can see kind of the topics that Mr. Tramberg will be providing professional development on. I won't go over all those, but they list some of the priorities that you'll see in the budget on Saturday. The Teacher in Residence program is fundamentally in the base of the program right now. This is one of the proudest moments that we have, I think, and Darien is held up in high esteem for this program and for the mentors that work with our students, for our teachers in residence have been phenomenal, and it's been really well received. It's been a very positive experience for all our staff, our students, and the district in general. So we would continue to support this program through another 2 teachers. The additional groundskeeper I just spoke to, the additional custodian at Oxridge, again, spoke to that matter. Capital maintenance programs. There's another slide that we'll talk to those, but those are some of the main projects that are going on. The middle school outdoor classroom, perhaps this shouldn't be in the presentation, but it is it's not in the budget at all. At some point, I would like to get that in the budget, but it might be a opportunity for a PTO member or a PTO or a community organization to actually fund that. This is an exciting opportunity, another new learning from COVID, that our students can learn in different environments, and in some cases outside, because that's what we did. So this would sort of transform the courtyard a little bit that's in the middle school. It would put in a canopy and an outdoor television set, seats for students, and just really create a wee classroom environment essentially. And the biggest cost expenditure is probably going to be the canopy that would need to be installed. But anyway, that's not technically in this operating budget. In some cases it shouldn't be on the screen, but I thought it was an exciting insight and request. And again, a new something that comes out of the COVID experience. So one of the biggest changes in this budget, which is the bring your own device model at the Darien High School. The board has talked about this many times. The administration, including myself, have talked about this many times. And to this point, we have stayed the course with the one-to-one iPad model at the high school. In all honesty, we thought that there's been investment made here in the one-to-one iPads, and that certainly hasn't been wasted by any means. This was an opportunity, a time where we felt that if we're going to review this, this is the time to actually review it. After the students coming out of COVID, did we have any learnings about that? We have involved the staff at the high school, the technology committee at the high school, just to review this particular program. And, you know, the board has also shared its observations over the years about the program. And we've determined that we feel that going to a one-to-one, bring your own device at the high school at this time is probably, well, not probably, is the best decision to make it currently. We've made investments all the way. I don't think we need to make investments to continue to make an investment if it's not the wisest thing to do, regardless if we've defended something in the past or not. So we took the opportunity to review it, and I think during budget, it's an opportunity sometimes to review some programs. So this is one that we have reviewed, and we've determined that we would like to do one-to-one. It wasn't done to save money. It happens to save money, but that was not the reason for doing it. Many of our kids have computers of their own that they've used during COVID. Many of the kids, yes, go and talking to the high school staff. 9 through 12 aren't being used in all of the classrooms as much as they might be, or that we had intended them to be. Many of our kids have phones, computers, gaming sets, all sorts of things. And we feel that at this point, we should transition. Any of the investments that we've made in Apple TVs or iPads or otherwise will not be wasted. And we can talk more about that as we go through the budget process. But we're excited about this opportunity, and so that really replaces the Apple iPad program, for want of a better word, that we have at the high school. And we think that the students would be excited about that. Replacement of teacher devices, that's part of the regular cycle that we have. District server upgrades, there's nothing exciting about that, but we need that. By the way, today's outage of the website was nothing to do with really our servers per se. It was our website provider. I think got hacked a little bit, and that's the final site that serves many districts across the country. So for our parents, we're actually setting up a dummy site tomorrow so we can post the budget, announce if there's a snow day or not, or anything else that we have to do. There'll be a temporary website up there running hopefully after this meeting. So a technology technician. So that was again just shared earlier in the personnel breakdown of 1-to-1 at the middle school. And then we have a few Sonic boards and Chromebooks, say a few that are being purchased. The Sonic boards, the last replacement of the smart boards, primarily in the art elementary schools, and then the Chromebooks just as part of the replacement schedule for 5th grade. So those are some of the things that are going on. These are some of the highlights. There are others, some clubs that are coming through, from rugby to unified sports, middle school. So there are other things that you'll see through the principal's presentation and the RC presentation, but these are just some of the big highlights and there's some exciting things in here for our students. And there are just some things also that I think that we need to do in the district at this point. These are the capital projects. I'm not going to read these. I think you can sort of see them fairly straightforward. I'll point a couple of out. One is the district, the Suburban. We're going to replace 2 vehicles and the 4th Suburban. I think the replacement vehicles are at least one of them is 17 years old. Mr. Lynch has detailed it in our budget books. And you can see the rest of the sort of projects that are being done around the district. It does include some technology here in the building, in the room that we're actually in, to allow us to do this as seamlessly as possible. But I won't, with your understanding, I won't read all of those. So with that, that brings us to 3.95. I do think that there are some nice opportunities for our students, program opportunities for our students in this budget. There are some needs that are being addressed. Again, there's some learners that we have from COVID that we've implemented. And then there's the strategic plan fundamentally that I think we have. It just makes all the sense in the world through the budget to support the strategic plan where we can do that. With that, I'll leave the budget calendar and turn it back to Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Dr. Adley. This is traditionally a presentation, no real questions or no real discussion. I will open it up for a minute if there's anything any board member wants to comment on or anything else they feel they need between now and Saturday. We good? All right. With that, anything else, Dr. Adley?
No, I'm excited to hear people's comments, thoughts, or otherwise as we move through the process.
Great. Thank you very much. Michelle, I will turn it over to public comment.
Good evening. If you would like to speak during public comment, please click the participants icon on the bottom of your Zoom screen. Next, click the raised hand option. You will notice a blue hand icon appear in the upper corner of your screen where your face and/or name or number appears. When it is your turn to speak, the facilitator will identify you and announce you are unmuted for public comment. Once recognized and unmuted, please state your name and address. You will have up to 3 minutes to comment. Would you like to start with Zoom or in person?
No, we'll start with in person. Thank you.
Thank you. Wendy Ward, 67 Deepwood Road. I just wanted to say these are no longer unprecedented times. These are the times. So let me start with my usual. We all have mental health. Mental health is our state of psychological, emotional, and social well-being. I would not say that we're all thriving. It affects how we think, feel, and behave. It informs how we cope with stress, influence how we see the world, and enables us to tolerate our emotions, and it impacts the way we engage with others. When we are in a state of balance mentally, we are more patient with others and feel gratitude for what we have and how we live. When children are in balance, they can focus on anything and everything as far as learning. They can have peer issues, good and bad, and they can be their developing, changing selves. When we are experiencing mental health concerns, which can be very subtle and crop up at any time, we are emotionally out of balance. Adults and children alike will suffer physical symptoms, feelings that can be big and unmanageable, and they may have trouble finding compassion for others and get stuck in negative thought patterns, which affect their behavior. Mental health concerns can be triggered by death, current events, family problems, severe weather. The list is long, and it could include seeing swastikas and pictures of guns. While this generation of kids, as we know, has access to and will be subjected to more images of violence, unrest, sexual content, again, the list goes on. Smartphones and social media spread information, good and bad, like wildfire in a dry season. We cannot become complacent. Before the break, there were a number of concerning issues in our schools: the graffiti, threats of violence in the classroom, disturbing images flying. Each child will experience these situations differently, but for the large part, the developing brain will be distracted by these occurrences. Some may even be unable to learn for a while. Darien is a notorious pressure cooker, and the pandemic has clearly heightened community stress. Since we all have mental health, and in fact, it's our foundation and DNA, I am asking that it be the fabric of our schools and not a superficial add-on. Without a stable mental health foundation, the entire goal of teaching and learning goes out the window. I support the additional staff to guide mental health initiatives, but still have concerns that access lies purely in the selected and not all the affected. We are not helping all the kids who are struggling. I saw the SEL presentation and have deep concerns about the slow, laborious, and expensive programs that have been chosen. School communication around these emotional disturbances is also becoming numbing.
You're almost at time.
Okay. Listen, I ask that we look more closely at embedding mental health in the core of every subject. It's not going to be an easy task. We can do this as a community and relieve stress. Darienne's been a leader in education. Let's
You
call
are at
ourselves
time,
to be a
Mrs.
leader
Ward.
in 21st century.
Thank you.
education.
Thank you very much. Anyone else in the audience? Okay, thank you. Michelle, we'll go to Zoom.
There are no raised hands at this time.
Okay, good. All right, so we are all set. Again, Happy New Year. Look forward to seeing everyone on Saturday.
Oh,
In
we have one raised hand now.
Sure, go ahead.
Ms. Jill Severin, you are unmuted and recognized.
I thank you all for taking the time. I'll be quick. This is the first board meeting that I have attended. I want to thank you all for all of your hard work in keeping our children safe. I can't imagine how difficult it's been. I have a question about the busing situation. Where I live, my daughter is right on the line of the 2-mile limit for Darien High School. I'd like to understand where that stands. If there is the plan to continue that 2-mile limit, because I don't have time to talk about it now, but obviously I don't feel that 2 miles, asking my daughter to walk 45 minutes each way to and from school is the best use of her time when there is already a bus that stops right next to our house that she could get on. And she currently takes that same bus stop to the middle school. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Teresa Vogt.
Ms. Severin, can I have your address, please?
Jill, can we have your address? Jill Severine?
Oh, yes, we are at 6 Hillside Court, which
Thank
is off
you.
of Hillside Avenue, and my neighbors on the court also have been told that their children are not eligible to take the bus to Darien.
Thank you. We just needed your address. Thank you for the records. Teresa?
Hi. Yeah, hi, Teresa Vogt, 22 Circle Road. Just wondering what the procedure is going to be for Saturday. Like last year on Zoom, you had a set way of doing the questions after each RC. Are we going back to the way we did it before, where anybody can ask a question, or is there going to be a procedure this year? Thanks.
Thank you, Teresa. Anyone else, Michelle?
There are no more raised hands.
So I will go over that Saturday morning. It's a good question, but we will do it the same as we did last year. It seemed to work. I have various people that will be in person, various people that will be on Zoom. We will go through each RC. We will have Board of Finance. We will have RTM Education, RTM F&B. We'll have CDSP, we'll have CPAC, and then we'll open it up to public comment. And I think all our partners have, that I've spoken to are very well organized, and it worked last year, and the feedback I got was they'd like to do it the same as this year. So we'll go that path. So, all right, thank you, everyone. Mr. Brown.
Just given the server issues, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask in this forum, do we have any snow day tomorrow word to pass along to anyone watching, or not yet?
I will leave that to Dr. Adley.
That's Mr. Brown, a snow day.
Just wonder if you flipped the coin yet, Al.
Have it for the record. You've just made the decision, Mr. Brown.
Which way did I go, Al?
There is a snow day tomorrow. There you go. How about that?
You heard it. You heard it here at the Board of Ed. So, all right. Thank you, Mr. Brown, for asking what all of us were probably wanting to ask. So, all right, good. Well, thank you, everyone. Again, Happy New Year. We look forward to Saturday. Thank you. Everyone wants to move me along here. May I have a motion to adjourn this meeting? Mrs. Best, second by Mr. Maroney. All those in favor?